bumper sticker. It said, grandparents, so easy to operate, even a child can do it.
Yeah.
Just at the beginning here, Susan and I were both at the Derby, and I just want to, on behalf of our family, I just want to offer our condolences to the community. It was a tragic situation. We were not here when the accident occurred, but I had given the indication at the beginning of the Derby. We stayed through the first heat, and then we headed back to Bozeman. So, just 44 years of Derby here, and to have a tragedy like this, it's a terrible thing. So we're keeping the entire community in our prayers. I just want to say we're thinking about you. Boy, I've got more skip in my step than I've had in a long time. I've been enjoying serving you back in Washington. We've been making progress there. Working with President Trump, we've lowered taxes, we've peeled regulations back, we've got the economy booming. We now have the lowest unemployment in over 50 years. Wages are on the increase. Consumer optimism is on the rise. There's a lot of positive things. And yet, here we are in Montana, and our exports are beef, grain, and our kids. And the fact that we're 43rd in the nation in wages means that a lot of our young people leave, and Montanans can't prosper. We don't have enough high-wage jobs. Susan and I raised our 4 kids in Bozeman. 3 of those 4 kids don't live in the state anymore. As a dad, I'd like to get them back. My grandson's not here. And I know a lot of families were in that situation. And the ones that are here are struggling to make ends meet and make a life, to own a home and build a future that's better for their kids and grandkids. And honestly, that's why I'm running for governor. Susan and I started a little business in our home in Bozeman with $5,000. And we've worked hard. Anybody here that owns a business or ranches or farms, it's hard work. Nothing's guaranteed. But in America, the dream has always been, if you work hard and follow the rules, you can make a better life for yourself. And yet, government's gotten in the way of that. We started in our home. People said we couldn't do it. And over 15 years, starting with that $5,000, we grew a business to 1,100 people. We became one of the state's largest employers. Our average wage in Bozeman was almost $90,000 a year, plus benefits. And people say, well, what did you do? We were in the technology business. We built software. We took a lot of MSU grads. We took some Grizzlies. They were pretty effective. And anyway, we built software for some of the largest corporations in the world to help them move their customer service onto the internet. So what does that mean? Well, we ran all the customer service infrastructure for companies like American Express, Sony, Motorola, about 2,000 organizations around the world. And in aggregate, the systems we operated were one of the top 100 websites in the world. We served about 8 million consumers a day. And we did all that out of Bozeman, Montana with Montana talent. And we had a huge advantage because you take the Montana work ethic and you apply it with good leadership, and you can do anything. We had an awesome advantage in our work we could do. And so now, serving you back in Washington, I'm pleased to report that I've yet to spend a weekend in Washington. Susan commutes with me. We get back to Montana every weekend. At the end of this month, I will have had events in 45 states, 45 counties in Montana. I get to all 56 counties every year. Today, we had an event yesterday we were in Dillon. We had an event in Darby. We had an event this morning in Hamilton. We were in Phillipsburg. Now we're here at Deer Lodge. And last week it was Webo and Terry and Glendive and Scobie and Plentywood. And I love traveling the state. And it's the only way, we used to have an expression in our business that the bigger something gets, the farther you are from the truth. And the only way I know how to represent you is to come out and see it and hear what's on your mind. We met with the county commissioners today over in Granite County to hear what was on their mind. And we took some notes, and we'll go back and rattle some cages in Washington when it gets things done. But as I travel the state, what I hear from small business owners is that they can't find workers. And yet, we don't have great opportunities either. It's kind of it's a chicken and egg thing. So I'm running because I love Montana. It's given a lot to us. We've raised our kids here, we've built our business here, and I want to see more Montanans prosper. And to do that, we need more high-wage jobs. And that would be my number one priority. Now, so I have to be really clear. Government doesn't create jobs. Small business owners, entrepreneurs, farmers, and ranchers create opportunities. But government can create an environment where individual entrepreneurs can prosper. And that's the role of government, is get out of the way. And we see what happened when we put a business guy in the White House. We've got a booming economy. I think Montana should take a page out of that playbook and apply it here. It's not going to be easy, but it's not complicated. You let people keep the fruits of their labor by lowering taxes across the board, property taxes, income taxes, across the board, and you peel excessive regulations back. Regulations like the ones that are preventing us from managing our forest and creating timber jobs. And he's going to another part.
Attorney.
So I have a plan to do that. It focuses on value-added ag. It focuses on increased trades education so we can expand our manufacturing base. It includes reforming state agencies like DEQ and DNRC so they are not the project prevention departments. So we can actually get a permit issued in this state. You know, we haven't issued a mining permit in over 20 years in the state of Montana. And we're the treasure state. We just can't get out our treasure. We have good, dedicated workers in our state agencies, but they've not been led well. And this is what I've done my whole career, is put good teams together, bring clarity to mission, hold people accountable, and then celebrate success as you go along. So I'd focus, number one, on jobs. Number two, I'd work on bringing accountability to these state agencies. I would work to lower taxes across the board. And here's how you do it. It's a very simple concept. Montana state revenues go up every year. And the Montana state legislature spends them every year. Okay? So, very simple. I've balanced a lot of budgets in my time. The first legislative session, I would ask the legislature to give me a zero growth budget. So that, just keep it flat. We're not going to cut anything. Let's just keep it flat. We've been expanding spending for a long time. Revenue will go up. That will give us a surplus. We'll use that surplus to buy the tax rates down across the board. Then I get 2 years to go top to bottom in every state agency to do exactly what I talked about. Clarity of mission, make sure the right people are in charge, bring accountability, and then celebrate success. That's leadership. I will also tell you, we need to make sure we defend our constitutional rights. For me, that's mostly about the Second Amendment and the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment says very clearly that rights not explicitly granted to the federal government are reserved for the states. And we've lost sight of that. I'm very proud of the fact that I passed legislation in the U.S. House to give more control to the state over the management of our forests. Because when we manage our forests, we have healthier forests, there's more jobs, there's more wildlife, and we have less wildfires. So I had an amendment on the Farm Bill that's now law, the president signed it, that gives county commissioners the ability to remove hazardous fuel on federal lands. That just became law in January. And here's the kicker. If you follow this process, it's called the Good Neighbor Authority, the environmentalists can't sue in court. They can't get an injunction. It shuts down frivolous lawsuits. This is law for land. You'll never get higher taxes from me. Because Winston Churchill said, trying to tax your way to prosperity is sort of like getting in a bucket, grabbing the handle and trying to pull yourself up. It doesn't work real well. So no sales tax, we're going to look on lowering taxes. I also think that our Constitution is very clear. It protects life. And without life, there is no liberty or the pursuit of happiness. I'll always defend life because it's critical in our society. The other thing we have to address, that doesn't get talked about a lot, is the drug epidemic that we have in the state of Montana. It's severe. I know you see it in this community. We see it in every community across the state. I was talking to a business owner in Missoula recently. He shared with me 50% of the people that come in for job interviews in Missoula cannot pass a drug test. Law enforcement tells me over 90% of the crime we see in Montana communities is drug related. All of the domestic violence, the burglaries, vandalism, and the 4,000 kids we have in foster care, 4,000 precious individual children are mostly there because the families have been broken apart because of drugs. There are solutions out there. Do you have a treatment court here? No. Treatment courts work. And what a treatment court is an 18-month, highly disciplined program for non-violent people that are addicted to drugs. Violent criminals, drug dealers, we need to lock them up. But the victims of the drug epidemic, we need to help them get healthy. And incarceration is not the path. These drug courts, if you graduate after 18 months from a drug court, 3 years after graduation, 70% of the graduates are still clean and holding a job. This is a wonderful thing. So you had some experience with it.
Our daughter.
Yeah, and here's the kicker. Incarceration in Montana costs between $40,000 and $50,000 a year. Do you know what a drug court costs? $4,000 a year. We can take 2 non-violent drug addicts out of jail and put 20 people into treatment court for the same money. This pays for itself. It's morally the right thing to do, and economically it's the right thing to do. And it will put us on a path to make our communities healthier again. So I tend to focus on a few things. It's really about jobs and opportunity and bringing our kids back and putting families together and helping our communities get healthy. I don't have all the answers, but what I do well is I assemble teams, I bring clarity to mission, I hold people accountable, and then we celebrate success along the way. That's my definition of leadership. And I'm excited to go to work in Helena because it's been 16 years of single party rule there, and almost everything the legislature does ends up in the trash can. So we can do a lot better. We can do a lot better. And this is really encouraging to have this size of group turn out and do much. I want to thank you for being here. There's 2 ways you can help. And the first is these campaigns cost a lot of money. We need both numbers of people and amount of money. So you're all in different situations. I would just ask you, if you can make a $20 contribution, that is significant because it adds another donor to our rolls and it shows that we're developing a broad base of support. If you can do that, that's really helpful. If you were thinking about doing $100, I would just say think about $250. The maximum somebody can do is $1,360. That's a lot of money, but some of you might be in a position to do it. I do have a Christmas club program where if you do $100 a month between now and the election, when you hit the maximum, you get a season pass. You can come to all future events free of charge. So my first request is just do what you can. You know your situation. Do what you can. Secondly, we do events every day. Susan and I travel the state. We do an event in Missoula every month. We do one in Bozeman every month. We don't get to Deer Lodge every month, but we're here periodically. When you see us coming to a community near you, please come back. You don't have to write another check, but bring a bunch of your friends with you. That's how we spread the word. So those are the 2 things I ask. Please support how you can and spread the word and encourage folks. So I'd love to take some questions. Yeah.
Ideas on healthcare and prescription drugs?
Yeah, so ideas on healthcare and prescription drugs. Are you talking about it from the epidemic side or the cost?
The cost side.
Yeah, so I serve on the healthcare subcommittee in Washington now. And you don't hear about this in the news, but we just passed 6 bills out of committee that are gonna bring prescription drug prices down. It doesn't get reported. One of them was a bill I introduced with a Democrat colleague. You don't hear about bipartisan stuff there either. I currently have 6 bipartisan bills moving through the House in a bunch of different areas. But in healthcare, where our focus has been, 1/3 of all healthcare costs are prescription drugs. And so the 6 bills focused on getting generic drugs to market faster. And the bill I introduced actually requires pricing transparency for pharma so that large insurance and hospitals can better negotiate the best price. And that passed out of the House now. We're waiting for the Senate to act on it. I believe the President will sign it. So these are, again, I think football games are won with 3 to 5 yard plays. These are the things we're working on in Washington. My priorities for healthcare are really, we've got to preserve access to healthcare in rural communities. We've got to protect people with pre-existing conditions. And we've got to get the cost down. Some of the things I think that make the most sense, I know the local hospital is working with telemedicine. This is one of the things I've been championing. I'm on healthcare, I'm also on the telecommunications subcommittee. The intersection is telehealth. There are real opportunities there, particularly for rural communities, to provide access to specialist providers through telemedicine. Because you're not going to have every medical specialist in every community, especially when the size isn't there. Some remarkable things have been going on, particularly related to mental health and tele-mental health. Tele-ER services is another opportunity. These can both increase quality of care and reduce costs. So there's a bunch of opportunities. I think the other thing that's closely related here is the safety net we have at the state level, particularly the Medicaid expansion that just occurred. And I believe as a society, we've accepted and support the fact that we need a social safety net so that we don't have people falling through. What we cannot allow, though, and this is more of my commentary, allow everyone to climb in the social safety net and have it collapse and not be available for the people that really need it. So, what do I mean by all that? The way Medicaid expansion is done in Montana, they do not do asset verification or income verification, which means people that are not deserving sign up for it, which will deplete the resources and make it not available for the disabled or the elderly who really need it. I would work to put some common sense reforms on the Medicaid expansion to make sure it's financially viable and there for the people that really need it.
Yay.
Thank you. Other questions?
Greg, you're up against a pretty well-known opponent of this.
What's his name again?
I can't remember. He's been in politics here for a long time. I mean, it's going to be a tough deal. I mean, what's your feelings on how you're going to approach this?
Well, in this race for governor, Republican and Democrat, I'm the only one with a business background. Trump's going to be at the top of the ticket. We've seen what Trump has done for this country from an economic perspective. My proposition is pretty simple. Let's bring some business experience to help. I don't think it's any more complicated than that. I will tell you, we've been very, very encouraged by what we've seen so far. We polled the race 2 weeks ago. It was a significant poll. It's the same group that's been doing all our polling for years. I rely on it, and it's proved accurate. In the primary, I'm at 56%. My nearest competitor is at 17%. The third person that's on the ballot is at 8%. In the general election, when we polled me versus the current lieutenant governor who's running on the Democrat side, I'm up by just a little over 9 percentage points. So we're encouraged, but it's still very early on. That's why we're working so hard.
I think you probably don't have to worry about him a lot in Howell County. We've had our share of lots.
Yes.
You know, state aid, I've worked in resource area my entire life, and state agencies have continue to become more and more bureaucratic. Department of Lands and their processes and the way they go about improving things is really continues to be more and more bureaucratic. Fish, wildlife, and parks, I think personally for me, and I know, and I'm a hunter and fisherman and all that stuff, but I think those guys are totally out of control. And I think they're buying up lands, they're spending a huge amount of money with very little oversight. And I personally would like to see some level of control or accountability within their ranks, because I feel I don't think there is.
Well, I mean, those of you that ranch know, FWP has been at war with landowners. I mean, they've been doing things to force public access, to confiscate property rights. And I'm all for public access to private land, but these should be voluntary programs that landowners opt into based on the appeal of the program. Not because they're forced, not because they want damage permits to shoot the elk that are eating the hay that are on their property, right? So, again, I go back to the way I approach leadership. The first thing is you gotta get the right people on the bus. So we need new leadership. And then you gotta define, any organization that doesn't have clear goals will end up making up some kind of goals. I'll give you an example, like in DPHHS, Child Protective Services, the more kids they have under their management, the more money they get. I don't think any of us would agree that more kids in state custody is the goal. We have to redefine what success is. And I think we've lost sight of that in a number of the state agencies. And that would be my role, to work with experts in that area, making sure all the voices get heard, to clearly define what success is. And my whole background in business is in customer service. I think we could put a large dollop of customer service back into these agencies. I was talking to a oil and gas guy in Billings last week. He's been drilling natural gas wells in Montana for 30 years. And he said, I used to go out and meet with the DEQ guy or the DNRC guy, and there's a 2-page application. I'd fill it out on my clipboard in the field with a pen. I'd show it to the inspector. He'd look at it, he'd take my application check, and he'd say, yeah, that looks all right. And we'd go ahead and drill the well. He says, well, today, that same permit is 48 pages long. And I need a licensed engineer to fill it out. Now, we have to protect the environment, but I fully believe we can develop our natural resources and protect the environment. But we've got to peel this excessive regulation back, and we need a culture change in these state agencies. Again, I think we have state employees that want to do the right thing. They're dedicated, they're Montanans, they work hard, and they have not been led with them. And that's what we need to change.
I agree.
Well, good. We'll stay and visit. Thank you so much. Remember your homework assignment. Write the biggest check you can, and then come back again and see us. Thanks so much.